Hello my schoolers, you're welcome to my school YouTube channel and my name is Man. In today's video we shall be tackling JAMB CBT mathematics past question for the year 2005. Please relax, do not go anywhere and we'll be right back. You are welcome back to my school YouTube channel. In today's video, we shall be answering question 1 to 25. So let's kick off with question 1. Find the value of m if 13 in base m plus 24 in base m is equals to 41 in base m. So let's move over to the boards to provide answer to this question. So basically, there are two methods that we can use to solve this question. Okay, so but I want us to use the method of converting this to base 10. Okay, so we are going to convert each of these values to base 10 and then get the value of m. Okay, so let's convert the 13 to base 10. So that will be 1 times m raised to power 1 plus 3 times m raised to power 0, then plus the 24, because we are adding these two values together. Then you'll be having 2 times m raised to power 1, then plus 4 times m raised to power 0, and this will be equals to, so this 41m to still convert it to base 10. So here we'll be having 4 times m raised to power 1, then plus 1 times m raised to power 0. So if we simplify here, we'll be having just m, because 1 times m raised to power 1 will be equals to m. Then plus, remember, any value raised to power 0 is 1. So here we'll be having 3. Then plus, here we'll be having 2m. Then plus, of course, here we'll be having just 4. And this will be equals to, here we'll be having 4m. Okay, then plus, you'll be having 1, okay, because any value raised to power 0 is 1. So 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, so here we just simplify. So if we add these two together, that is 3 plus 4, that will be equals to 7. Then m plus 2m, that will be equals to 3m. So on the left hand side, we'll be having 3m plus 7 is equals to 4m plus 1. Okay, so here we simply collect like terms. So we'll move 7 to this side, then bring 4 to our left hand side. So we'll be having 3m minus 4m is equals to 1 minus 7. Okay, so you'll be having minus m to be equals to minus 6. So minus, we cancel minus. So the value of m is actually equals to 6. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 6. Question 2. If 321 in base 4 is divided by 23 in base 4 and leaves a remainder r, what is the value of r? So let's move over to the boards to provide answer to this question. So to solve this question, we will simply convert each of these values to base 10. Okay, so first of all, let's convert the 321 in base 4 to base 10. So if I have to convert this to base 10, remember here will be 0, 1, and 2. So here we'll be having 3 times 4 raised to power 2, then plus 2 times 1 raised times 4 raised to power 1, then plus 1 times 4 raised to power 0. Okay, so here we'll be having 3 times 16, because 2 raised to power 4. Okay, 4 raised to power 2, sorry, is 16, then plus 2. So here we'll just be having 2 times 4. Okay, while here we'll be having 1. Okay, so 3 times 16, that will be equals to 48. Okay, then plus 8, then plus 1. Okay, so if we add this together, we'll be having, so 48 plus 8, that will be 56. Then 56 plus 1 will give us 57. Okay, so let's also convert the denominator to base 10. Okay, which is 23 in base 4 to base 10. So here is 0, while here is 1. So we'll be having 2 times 4 raised to power 1 plus 3 times 4 raised to power 0. Okay, so 2 times 4 raised to power 1 is definitely going to give us 8. Then plus, of course, 3 times 4 raised to power 0 is going to give us 3, because 4 raised to power 0 is 1. So 3 times 1 is going to give us 3. So here we'll be having 11. Okay, so now remember these are all in base 10. So let's divide in base 10. And so we are now having 57 in base 10 divided by 11 in base 10. Okay, so if we divide, definitely we are going to be having 55. So it's going to be 5. Okay, then remainder 2. So this 2 is in base 10. Now remember that these 2 in base 10 represent the remainder that they are talking about in this question. But this 2 in base 10, we will have to convert it to base 4. Okay, so 2, we want to convert it to base 4. So you'll be having 2 and you'll be having 4. Okay, so 2 into 4, of course, is cannot. So here we'll put down 0 and here we'll put remainder 2. Okay, so our answer definitely, so 2 in base 10, okay, to base 4 is actually 2 in base 4. Okay, so now let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. Okay, and that is option C, 2. So the remainder is actually 2 in base 4. Question 3. Simplify 3 whole number 1 over 2 minus, in bracket, 2 whole number 1 over 3 times 1 whole number 1 over 4 plus 3 over 5. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So first thing first is for us to convert these mixed fractions to improper fraction. Okay, so let's convert 3 number 1 over 2 to improper fraction. So if we convert here, we'll be having 7 all over 2, okay, which is 2 times 3, which is 6 plus 1, which is 7. So our denominator still remains. So let's deal with what's in the bracket. So if we convert what's in the bracket, also we'll be having 7 over 3 in this case. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1, which is 7. Then times, here we'll be having 5 over 4. Okay, 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Then plus 3 over 5. So we are going to be using board mass to solve this. So for board mass, you first of all deal with what is in the bracket. Okay, so let's deal with what's in the bracket. So here we'll be having 7 over 2, then minus. So if we deal with what is in the bracket, we'll be having, of course, there's nothing here that can cancel. So we just multiply. So here will be 7 times 5, that will be 35. Okay, then here 3 times 4, that will be 12. Okay, so let's remove the bracket now since we have dealt with what is inside the bracket, then plus 3 over 5. Okay, so here we can just subtract, or you can as well decide to, okay, first of all, deal with the addition part first before you deal with the subtraction part. But whichever way, your answer will still be correct. So let's just go straight. So the LCM of 2, 12, and 5 is actually 60. Okay, so 2 into 60 is going to give us 30. Then 30 times 7 is 210. Then minus, now here we have 12. So 12 into 60 is going to give us 5. And 5 times 35 is going to give us 175. Okay, then plus, which is this plus. Then 5 into 60 is going to give us 12. And 12 times 3 is going to give us 36. Okay, so let's tidy this up. So we just add these two, and that will give us 100, sorry, that will give us 246, then minus 175 all over 60. So this is what I did. I added these two up. Of course, you can decide to subtract this 175 first from 210, then add 35 to it, or and add this 36 to it, or you can add 36 to 210 first, then the result minus 175 from it. Whichever way, your answer will still be correct. Okay, so 246 minus 175, that will be equals to 71. Okay, so 71 all over 60. Okay, so if we decide to change this to mixed fraction, we'll be having one whole number, because 60 can only go into 71 just once. Okay, so 60 into 71 is going to give us 1, then remainder 11. So write the 11 here all over 60. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, one whole number 11 over 60. Question 4. If the interest on 150 for 2 whole number 1 over 2 years is 4.50 naira, Find the interest on 250 naira for 6 months at the same rate. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So these parameters are given to us from the question. So from the first part, we have to calculate for the rate, which we will use in calculating for the simple interest in the second part, because the question said so, okay, that the rate are the same. So remember that simple interest SI is equals to principal times rate times time all over 100. Okay, so we just substitute our values and we calculate for rate. So here we'll be having 4.50 is equals to the principal is 150, then times the rate, which is what we are looking for, then times time, which will be 5 all over 2. So here we still be having our 100. Okay, so 0 we cancel out 0. Okay, so 5 here will give us 2, and 5 here gives us 1. Okay, so here 2 here is going to give us 1, and 2 here is going to give us 7.5. Okay, there's no need, so we just cross multiply. Okay, so here we'll be cross multiplying by 4. So if we times 4.50 times 4, that will be equals to 18. So here we'll be having 18 is equals to 15 R. Okay, so we make arrow the subject of formula by dividing both sides by 15. So arrow is equals to 18 divided by 15. Okay, so 3 here is going to give us 6, and 3 here is going to give us 5. Okay, so the rate is equals to 5/6%. So it's this same rate that we use to calculate for the new simple interest. So let's do it on this part of the board. So don't forget, simple interest is equals to principal times rate times time all over 100. So we just substitute our values since we are calculating for simple interest. So S dot I is equals to the new principal is 250. So you'll be having 250 times the rate. Okay, so you'll be having 6/5 times 100, which is this 100, then times the time, which is 1/2. Now remember that time is given to us in months, but we don't work with months. So then if we are giving time in months, we usually convert it to years. Okay, so remember that 6 months is half a year. Okay, so you'll be having 1 all over 2. Okay, so let's divide. So 5 here is going to give us 1, 5 here is going to give us 50. So 0 we take out 0. Okay, so 5 here will give us 2, and this will take out this 5. So we still have 6 all over 4. Okay, so 2 here will give us 3, and 2 here is going to give us 2. So 3 divided by 2, that will be equals to 1.50 naira. Okay, so the new simple interest is equals to 1.50 naira. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 1.50 naira. Question 5. 3 boys shared some oranges. The first received 1/3 of the oranges, and the second received 2/3 of the remaining. If the third boy received the remaining 12 oranges, how many oranges did they share? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to solve questions like this, first of all, you ask yourself, how many oranges did they share? So we don't really know. Okay, so in this case we say let the total orange shared, okay, let the total orange shared by the 3 boys be equals to S. Okay, so the first person, according to the question, receive 1/3 of the total oranges. So in that case, the first person share is going to be 1/3 times X, and this will be X/3. Okay, now we are told that the second person received 2/3 of the remaining. Okay, but remember the first person received X/3 of X. So what is now left? So to get what is left, we'll now be having X minus X/3. Okay, to know what is left after the first person has received X/3 of the total oranges. So this will be equals to 2X all over 3. So this is what is left after the first person have received X/3. Okay, so we are told that the second person received this of what is left. So that will be 2/3, okay, times 2X all over 3. Okay, that's what we are told. Receive 2/3 of the remaining, and this is what is left after the first person have removed the share. So the second person has received 2/3 of this. So this will be equals to 4X all over 9. Okay, so here we're told that the third person received 12 of what is remaining. Okay, so for us to know what is remaining, we will subtract this, which is the second person's share, and the first person's share from the total number of oranges, and that will be equals to what is remaining, what is left, which is what the third person received. Okay, but take note, our attention here is actually to calculate for the total number of oranges. Okay, not what the first person or the second person received, right? So in order for us to do that, now remember the total range is x, so let's calculate for what is left. So that will be x minus, in bracket, x over 3 plus 4x all over 9. So this will be equals to what is remaining, which the third person received, which is what? Which is 12. So let's simplify it inside here first, inside what we have in the bracket. So here we'll be having x minus, so let's deal with inside the bracket. Of course, LCM of 3 and 9 is 9. Okay, so 3 into 9 is going to give us 3. And 3 times x is going to give us 3x. So here we'll be having 3x, then plus, of course, 9 into 9 is going to give us 1. So 1 times 4s will give us 4s all over 9, which is the LCM. Okay, and this is equals to 12. So let's continue from this part. So if we sum up what is inside the bracket, we'll be having x minus 7x all over 9 is equals to 12. Okay, so we can as well still solve this little fraction because this is also over 1. It doesn't change anything, it still remains s. So now the LCM of 1 and 9 is what? Is 9. So 1 into 9 is 9. 9 times s is 9x. Okay, then minus, now 9 into 9 is 1. Okay, 1 times 7s will give us 7s all over the LCM of 1 and 9, which is 9. And this is equals to 12. Okay, so here if we simplify the numerator, we'll be having 2x, okay, y all over 9, and this will be equals to 12. So we can just cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we're having 2s is equals to 12 times 9. Okay, now since we are looking for the value of x, we can divide both sides by the coefficient of s, which is 2, so that s is equals to 12 times 9 divided by 2. So 2 here is 1 and 2 here is 6. Now don't use these 2 to divide 9, okay, because normally we are supposed to just multiply this out, then the result will divide it by 2. So it's still the same thing even though we did not multiply it out. So once you use 2 to divide any of the numbers, it's still the same thing as multiplying the two numbers out and dividing the result by 2. Okay, so here we're now having 6 times 9, and 6 times 9 is equals to 54. Okay, so the value or the total amount of orange that was shared is actually equals to 54 oranges. Okay, so let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 54 oranges. Question 6. Evaluate, in bracket, 81 raised to power 3 over 4 minus 27 raised to power 1 over 3 divided by 3 times 2 raised to power 3. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a question, example of question from indices. So here we are going to be applying the law of indices to provide answer to this question. So according to the law of indices, 81 raised to power 3 over 4 is the same as a fourth root of 81 in bracket raised to power 3. Okay, then minus, of course, 21 raised to power 1 over 3 simply means the cube root of 27. Okay, so you'll be having the cube root of 27 all over 3 times 2 raised to power 3. Okay, so the fourth root of 81 is actually 3. Okay, the fourth root of 81 is actually 3, meaning 4 numbers that are the same that you multiply together to get 81, and that will be 3. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, this will be equals to 81, because 3 times 3 is 9, then this other 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 9 is 81. Okay, so the fourth root of 81 is 3, so you'll be having 3 raised to power 3, then minus the cube root of 27 is actually 3. That is 3 the same numbers that you multiply together that will give you 27, which is 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. So over here we'll be having 3 times 2 raised to power 3. Okay, so this will be equals to, of course, 3 raised to power 3 will give us 27, then minus 3. Then over 3 times, of course, 2 raised to power 3 is 8. Okay, so here the denominator here will be having 24, while the numerator will be having 24, while the denominator will also be having 24, which is 3 times 8 will give us 24. So 24 divided by 24, that will give us 1. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 1. Question 7. If log 2 base 10 is equals to 0.3010 and log 3 base 10 is equals to 0.4771, evaluate log 4.5 base 10. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. Okay, so we are asked to evaluate 4.5 base 10. But remember that 4.5 is the same as 9 divided by 2. Okay, the reason why we are doing that is so that we can accommodate these values that are given to us for log 2 base 10 and log 3 base 10. Okay, so we'll rewrite this to be equals to log 9 over 2 base 10. Okay, so here we are going to apply the laws of logarithm. So here we are going to be applying the division law. So according to the law of logarithm, log 9 over 2 base 10 is the same as log 9 base 10 minus log 2 base 10. Okay, so log 9 base 10, okay, is the same thing as 3 raised to power 2 minus log 2 base 10. So log 9 base 10 is still the same thing as this, log 3 raised to power 2 base 10. So according to the law of indices, these two will move back. So you'll be having 2, then log 3 base 10 minus log 2 base 10. But the value of log 3 base 10 and log 2 base 10 is given to us. Okay, so for log 3 base 10, we are told that, so in this case, we'll be having a bracket because this 2 is multiplying everything in front of it. But everything in front of it, which is the log 3 base 10, is equals to 0.4771. Okay, then while here we have minus, so log 2 base 10 is given to us to be equals to 0.3010. Okay, so here we just multiply out. So if we multiply out, let's start from multiplying from our right hand side. So here we'll be having 2, which is 2 times 1 will give us 2. Then 2 times 7 will give us 14, write down 4, carry 1. 2 times 7 will give us 14 plus that 1, 15, write down 5, carry 1. Then 2 times 4 will give us 8 plus that 1, 9. So you're having 0.0. So minus 0.3010. Okay, so we just subtract, that is 0.9542 minus 0.3010. So we still do the same thing from this side. 2 minus 0 is 2, then 4 minus 1 is 3, then 5 minus 0 is 5, then 9 minus 3 is 6. Then here we still have our point and 0. Okay, so our answer is equals to 0.6532. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 0.6532. Question 8. Simplify root 12 minus root 3 in bracket over root 12 plus root 3 in bracket. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a question under sort. So basically, if you are given this type of sort and you are asked to simplify, the first step to take is to multiply both the denominator and the numerator by the conjugate of the denominator. Okay, so the denominator is 12, root 12 plus root 3. Okay, so the conjugate of root 12 plus root 3 is simply root 12 minus root 3. So we are going to be multiplying both the denominator and the numerator by root 12 minus root 3. So multiply it by root 12 minus root 3, which is the numerator. Then we do the same to the denominator, root 12 minus root 3. Okay, so let us deal with the denominator first. So if you look at the denominator properly, you'll find out that this is the expansion of, or these are the factors of difference of 2 squared. So to simplify this, we just write root 12 in bracket raised to power 2 minus root 3 in bracket raised to power 2. So let's multiply out the numerator. So here we'll be having root 12 times root 12. That will give us root 144. Then root 12 times root 3, that will give us, okay, of course this is minus, so we'll be having minus root 36. Okay, then minus root 36 times 12, that will give us minus root 36. Then minus root 3 minus root 3, that will give us minus root, that will give us minus root 9. Okay, so let's simplify further. So here, root 144 is equals to 12, then minus root 36, okay, is 6, then minus root 36 again is 6, then here we are going to be having plus because minus times minus is plus, please take note. So root 9 will give us plus 3, then all over. So here, remember, this square is going to kill off the square root, so that we'll be having 12 here, then minus square will kill off square root, so that we're having 3 here. Okay, so if we simplify this, now we have minus 6 minus 6. So minus 6 minus 6 is minus 12. But here we are having 12, positive 12. So this is more or less like, say, 12 minus 12, and that will be 0. So this whole thing here is gone. Okay, so we have 3 left on the numerator. While here we'll be having 12 minus 3, and that will give us 9. So 3 here is 1 and 3 here is 3. So at the end of the day, our final answer is 1 over 3. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 1 over 3. Question 9. The Venn diagram above shows a class of 40 students with the games they play. How many of the students play 2 games only? So we have to use this Venn diagram to answer this question. So first of all, for us to know if these values that are given to us are only, it's just for us to add them together. Okay, all the values that you are seeing in this rectangle, we have to add them together to see if it will be equals to 40. So if it is equals to 40, that means every values you are seeing here represent only. Okay, for example, the 9 here you are seeing here means that we have only 9 persons that played tennis. Here we have only 2 persons that played tennis. But if you look at these circles very well, they are somehow connected. So look at the tennis and the football circle, you see the connection between both of them. So this 5 here represent those that played football and tennis only. Okay, so in this question we are asked to calculate how many of the students that played 2 games only. So these regions here represent the students that played 2 games only. So here we have 5, here we have 3, and here we have 7. So if we add it together, okay, that will be equals to 15. Now we are not to include this 4 because this 4 here, okay, this region here connects the 3 circles, which is the number of persons that played 3 games only, or that played the 3 games. Okay, but in this question we are asked for those that played 2 games only, which represent these regions you are seeing here, 3, 5, and 7. So if we add it together, that will be equals to 15. Okay, so the number of students that played 2 games only is equals to 15. So that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Do you know you can take practice questions with our JAMB Simulator CBT past questions? All you need to do is to click on the link in the description below, and that will take you to Myschool website. There you will have to download Myschool mobile app for your Android devices and Myschool software for your laptops and computers. Please go ahead and start practicing. Moving on to question 10. If m is equals to 3, p is equals to minus 3, q is equals to 7, and r is equals to 5 over 2. Evaluate m, then bracket open, p plus q plus r, bracket close. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a simple question on substitution, meaning anywhere you see m, p, q, and r, replace them with these values that are given to us. So let's replace them. So our m is 3, so here will be 3, then bracket, our p is minus 3, then plus, our q is 7, then plus r is 5 over 2, all in bracket. Okay, so let's deal with what we have inside the bracket first. So minus 3 plus 7 definitely is going to give us 4. Okay, so let's add this, the fraction part to it, that is plus 5 over 2. So let's deal with what is also in the bracket because we are not done with it, we just deal with the first two. So here we're now having 4 over 1 plus 5 over 2. But don't forget that 4 over 1 is still the same thing as 4. So let's simplify what we have inside this bracket. So LCM of 1 and 2 is 2. 1 into 2 is going to give us 2. Then 2 times 4 will give us 8. Then we'll put our plus here. So 2 into 2 will give us 1. Then 1 times 5 is going to give us 5. So we add the 8 and the 5, and that will be equals to 13. So we are now having 13 all over 2. Okay, so 13 divided by 2 is going to give us 6.5. Okay, so here we are now having 3 brackets 6.5. But remember that bracket actually means times, or to clear this bracket we have to use what we have outside the bracket to multiply what we have inside the bracket. So this is another way of saying 3 times 6.5. Okay, so 3 times 6.5 is going to give us 19.5. Okay, so the answer to this question is 19.5. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, 19.50. I believe you are enjoying this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 11. A polynomial in S whose zeros are -2, -1, and 3 is. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So a polynomial in S simply means that that polynomial is actually equated to 0. The values of S were calculated. Okay, so in this case, if we have S is equals to -2, it simply means that we actually have X plus 2 is equals to 0. So if we move this, if we move 2 to this side, we'll be having S to be equals to -2. Okay, so S is equals to -2 means S plus 2 is equals to 0. So let's leave this. While for the second one, it will also be the same, which is S plus 1. While for the third one, we'll be having X minus 3. Okay, so we multiply these 3 factors together to actually form the polynomial. Okay, so first of all, let's multiply the first 2 brackets, S plus 2, then bracket X plus 1. So let's multiply this out first. So S times S will be S squared, then X times 1 will be plus X, then S times 2 will be plus 2X, then plus 2 times plus 1, that will give us plus 2. So let's simplify this. So here will be S squared plus 3X plus 2. Okay, so these 2 brackets result in this. Then let's multiply it with the third one. Here we'll be having X minus 3. Okay, so let's multiply out. So S squared times S will give us S cubed. Then S squared times minus 3 will give us minus 3S squared. Okay, so let's multiply with 3S. So 3S times S will give us plus 3S squared. Then 3S times minus 3 will give us minus 9x. So let's multiply with 2. So plus 2 times S will give us plus 2x. Then 2 times minus 3 will give us minus 6. So let's tidy up everything here. So here we'll be having our S raised to power 3, then minus 3S squared plus 3S squared will go off. Okay, while here we are having minus 9S plus 2S. So minus 9S plus 2S will give us minus 7S, then minus 6. So this is the resulting polynomial. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, S cubed minus 7X minus 6. Number 12. The time taken to do a piece of work is inversely proportional to the number of men employed. If it takes 30 men to do a piece of work in 6 days, how many men are required to do the work in 4 days? So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So basically here we are saying let T represent the time taken to do a piece of work, and let M and then subscript M represent the number of men. So in this question we are told that the time taken to do a piece of work is inversely proportional to the number of men employed. Okay, so here we are given the number of men. Of course we can't work with this. Okay, here we can't work with this, so we need to introduce a constant. So if we introduce a constant here, we'll be having t to be equals to k all over mn. Okay, so first thing first is for us to calculate for k. So we just cross multiply. So k will be equals to t, then mn. So to calculate for our k, it's just for us to substitute the values that are given to us in the first part of the question. So number of men is 30 and the time taken is 6. So k will be equals to 6 times 30, and this will be equals to 180. So this value of k, we substitute it back into the equation, which is t is equals to, so in place of k, we write 180 all over n subscript m. Okay, now we are asked to calculate for mn, which is the number of men, if the time taken is equals to 4 days. So since we are calculating for m subscript m, we just make it the subject of formula by switching position with time. So m, which is the number of men, will now be equals to 180 all over t. Okay, so we can now substitute. So mn will now be equals to 180 divided by 4. So let's divide gradually. 2 here is 2, 2 here is 90, 2 here is 1, and 2 here is 45. So the number of men required to do the same piece of work, okay, for 4 days is equals to 45 men. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, 45 men. Question 13. The weight WkG of a metal bar varies jointly as its length L meters and the square of its diameter D meters. If W is equals to 140, when D is equals to 4 whole number 2 over 3 and L is equals to 54. Find D in terms of W and L. So finding D in terms of W and L simply means that we should make D the subject of formula. Okay, so let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So for this question, we were told that the weight W of a metal bar varies directly as its length and square of its diameter. Okay, so W varies jointly as the length and the square of its diameter. So here we just introduce a constant. So if we introduce a constant, we're having W to be equals to K L D square. So here we want to make W, from here we want to make W the subject of formula. But before we can do that, we have to get the value of K by simply substituting the value of W, D and L into this equation. Okay, so let's do that. So here we'll be having 140 is equals to K, then times L is 54, then times D squared. Okay, but now if you look at this carefully, this is given to us in mixed fraction. So I prefer we convert it to an improper fraction. So if we convert it, we'll be having 14 over 3, okay, which is 3 times 4 is 12, then plus 2, which is 14 all over 3. Okay, so since this base is square, we're having it twice, which is 14 over 3 times 14 over 3. So we can do some small calculation here. So remember that 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so this 3 is going to go off, and 54 divided by 9 will give us 6. So we already have 6 here. So we can as well still do some things here. So here we can divide here by 14. So 14 we take out 14, and 14 we take out 14 from here to give us 10. So we now have 10 is equals to K times 6 times 14. I think something can as well still divide. Okay, so 2 here is going to give us 5. Okay, then we have K then times 6 times 14. Okay, so now let's divide. So we divided here by 2, so we can divide any of these by 2. So let's divide this by 2. So if we divide this by 2, we are going to be having 7. So here we'll have 7 here. Okay, so now we now have 5 is equals, of course, if we multiply this, 6 times 7 will give us 42. So on this side, we are now having 42K. Okay, so we make K the subject of formula so that K is equals to 5 all over 42. So this value of K, will return it back and put it in the original equation, which is this. Okay, so the original equation is W is equals to K. Of course, we already know the value, which is 5 over 42, then our L, then D squared. Okay, so here we want to, of course, all these ones are over 1/1, so it doesn't make any difference if we write it or not. So here we are asked to make D the subject of formula. So to make D the subject of formula, that means we have to isolate D from here. Okay, so to do that, first of all, we have to cross multiply so that we can remove this 42 from our right hand side. So if we cross multiply, we are continuing from here. So if we cross multiply, we're having 42W to be equals to 5LD squared. Okay, so since we want to isolate D, we divide both sides by the coefficient of D squared, okay, which is 5L. So if we divide both sides by 5L, we'll be having D squared is equals to 42W divided by 5L, right? Now, but in this question, we are asked to make D the subject of formula, or we should calculate D in terms of W and L, right? So in order to get our D, we have to take the square root of both sides. So if I take the square root of D squared, I will also take the square root of 42W all over 5L. So let's take the square root. So here, 2 will kill off the square root so that D is equals to root 42W all over 5L. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question. Okay, and that will be option A, root 42W all over 5L. Question 14. Find the range of values of x for which 7x minus 3 is greater than 25 plus 3s. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So to solve this, we just solve it the normal way we solve a simple equation by collecting like terms. Okay, so we move our 3x to this side, and we move our 3 to this other side. So here we'll be having 7x minus 3s because our 3s here is positive. So once it crosses the inequality sign, it's going to change to minus, just like your equation. Okay, so we still have greater than. So here we have 25. Now, since this minus 3 here is positive, it's negative. Once it crosses this inequality sign, then it's going to change to positive. So here we're having plus 3. Okay, so if we subtract here, which is 7x minus 3s, that will give us 4s is greater than. If we add 25 to 3, that will give us 28. Okay, so since we are looking for s, we simply divide both sides by the coefficient of s, which is 4. So you'll be having 4x divided by 4, then it's greater than 28 divided by 4. So 4 cancel out 4, so s is left, is greater than, then 4 here is 1, 4 here is 7. So s is greater than 7. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option A, s is greater than 7. Question 15. The diagram above is the graph of the function fx. Determine the range of value of s for which fs is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so the graph we are seeing here is the graph of the function of x, and we are asked to find the values of x for which fx is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so first of all, to solve this, we must understand this graph. Okay, so if we see the graph on the positive side, the graph on the positive side of y, what that tells us is that this part, okay, is actually greater than, showing that fx is greater than 0 and not fs is less than 0. But if we see the part that is below, or that is negative side of y, it shows the less than side. Okay, but if you look at this graph very well, the graph caught s at -2 and also caught s at -3. But if you look at this, on this side it's sloping upward, that is, it is on the positive side of y, okay, indicating that it is greater than. So what that means is that every value below here, okay, within this range from -2 to 0 is not included. Okay, but we include -2, and the reason is because the graph cut through the s-axis exactly at -2. Okay, now all values from 0 here to 2 will be included because the graph sloped down, or is actually below the s-axis. Okay, so when the graph is below the s-axis, it actually indicates less than. But when it's above it, it actually indicates greater than. But in this question, we are asked to find when the graph is less than or equal to 0. Okay, so from our analysis, the answer to this question is option D, because the option D agrees with what I just explained. Okay, so the answer to this question is option D. S is less than or equal to minus 2, and 0 is less than or equal to S, and S is less than or equal to 2. So the correct answer to this question is option D. Question 16. If the 7th term of an AP is twice the 3rd term, and the sum of the first 4 terms is 42, find the common difference. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So we are told that the 7th term is equals to twice the 3rd term, and the sum of the first 4 terms is equals to 42, that we should find the common difference. So first of all, let's deal with this part. So the 7th term is written as, that is T7 is equals to A plus 6D. Remember, using A plus N minus 1 in bracket D. So since it is 7th term, just put 7 here. Then 7 minus 1 is going to give you this at the end of the day, okay? While the 3rd term will be A plus 2D, the same thing. Put 3 here, minus 1 from inside will give you 2. Okay, so let's put this together now. So A plus 6D is equals to 2 times, according to the question, A plus 2D. So A plus 6D now equals to 2A plus 4D. Okay, so we can collect like terms. So we simply move 4D to this side and then move A to the other side. Okay, so here we'll be having 2A minus A, still the same thing. It's equals to 6D then minus 4D. So that at the end of the day, 2A minus A is going to give us A is equals to, then 6D minus 4D is going to give us 2D. So what this means is that the first term is equals to twice the common difference. Okay, the first term is equals to twice the common difference. Now we are told that the sum of the first 4 terms, so using Sn is equals to n all over 2 bracket 2A plus n minus 1D. Okay, to solve the second part. Now here we are told the first 4 term, that means n is equals to 4 in this case. So S4 will be equals to 4 all over 2. Then remember our A is equals to 2D. So anywhere we see A in that formula, we replace it with 2D. So here we're having 2 bracket 2D, then plus, then here will be 4 minus 1, then bracket D. So our D still remains. So this will be equals to, but remember we are told that this is equals to 42. Okay, so this is equals to 42. Remember here, we are told in the question place. So if we divide, we'll be having 2 here outside. Then if we multiply what these two, we'll be having 4D, then plus, if we subtract this and multiply by this, we'll be having 3D. This is 4 minus 1 in bracket. Okay, so 4 minus 1 in bracket is 3. Then times D, that will be 3D. All in bracket is equals to 42. Okay, so 2 here, let's just remove it. So you'll be having 4. So if we add what you have in the bracket here, since they are like terms, we'll be having 7D. Okay, will be equals to, since here we divided through by 2. So if I divide here by 2, so this 2 will be out. And if I divide here by 2, I'll be having 21. Okay, 2 here is 2, 2 here is 1. Okay, now since we are looking for D, we just divide both sides by the coefficient of D, which is 7. So that D is equals to 21 divided by 7, and that will be equals to 3. Okay, so the common difference is equals to 3. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 3. Question 17. Find the sum of the first 20 terms of the series 8, 12, 16, then 96. Okay, so let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So for some persons, they will prefer to use Sn is equals to n all over 2, then bracket A plus L to solve this question. Okay, but me, I'm going to use Sn is equals to n all over 2 bracket 2A plus n minus 1 in brackets. Okay, n minus 1 then in bracket D. That is what I will use to solve this. And the reason for that is because if you check the number of terms, okay, from 8 to 69, it is more than 20 terms. And if we are using this formula to solve, to provide answer to this question, what we are saying in essence is that the last term is 96. Okay, but if you check the number of terms from 8 to 96, you discover that it is more than 20 terms. Okay, so take note of that. It is more than 20 terms. So if you use this formula to solve, you are going to get the answer wrongly, even though in the option the answer is there. Okay, so take note of that. So it's safer to use this formula to provide answer to questions of this kind. Okay, and the fact is that if, for example, let's say the 20th term is actually 96, whether you use this formula or you use this one, the answer will be the same. So if there is confusion between when you use this formula to solve and when you use this formula to solve, that means there's something wrong. So take note, I said if you actually calculate for the number of terms from 8 to 96, okay, it is more than 20. Okay, and if we are solving for the sum of first 20 terms and we are using this formula, what we are saying is that the last term is actually 96. Okay, but the 96th term there is not actually the 20th term. So you can do that by yourself. Okay, so we are going to use this formula. So we are solving for the 20th term. So here we'll be using 20. So our n is equals to 20 all over 2. So let's just write it as 20 all over 2. Then bracket, the first term there is 8. So here we're having 8, then plus, here will be 20 minus 1 in bracket. Then the common difference will be 4, 12 minus 8. So here will be 4. Okay, so we tidy up this place, we divide. Here we'll be having 10 in bracket. This will give us 16. Then plus, this will give us 19 times 4. Okay, so in bracket. So here we'll be having our 10, here we'll be having our 16, then plus. So if we multiply out, this times this is going to give us 36. So write down 6 and carry 3. This time this is 1, which is 76, right? So if we add these two, this is going to give us 12. So we write down 2, we carry 1. This is going to give us 8 plus 1, that will give us 9. That means here we're having 92, which is 16 plus 76 will give us 92. Then 92 times this 10 outside, that will give us 920. Okay, so the sum of the first 20 terms will be 920. So take note, like I said the number of terms from 8 to 96 is more than 20 terms. So you can try that by yourself. Okay, so the answer to this question is option D, 920. Question 18. An operation star is defined on the set of real numbers by a star b is equals to ab plus 2 bracket open a plus b plus 1 bracket close. Find the identity element. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So remember that for an identity element a star, an identity element equals to a, or an identity element star a is also equals to a. Okay, so we are making use of the first one. So what this simply means is that anywhere we see a in this expression, we are going to replace it with a, and anywhere we see b, we are going to replace it with e. Okay, and after replacing the a and b in this side of this equation that is given to us, we now equate it to a. Okay, then we now calculate for e, which is what we are asked to solve for. So let's rewrite out this part of the expression. So here we'll be having a star e, okay, is equals to ab plus 2 bracket open a plus b plus 1 bracket close is equals to a. Okay, so let's replace our a and b now, our a and e. Okay, so a still remains a, but b will be replaced by e, then plus 2 bracket a still remains a, but b will be replaced with e, then plus 1 is equals to a. So we can open that bracket. So ae plus 2a plus 2e plus 2 is equals to a. Okay, so yeah, definitely we just collect like terms. So these two are going to move over to the other side. So that we'll be having ae plus 2e is equals to a, okay, then minus 2a, then minus 2. Okay, so here what is common is e, right? So we bring it out. So e will come out, so we'll be having a plus 2, okay, because if we use the e to multiply everything inside the bracket, it will return us back to what we have here. So here we'll be having, of course, let's just make this the subject of formula. Okay, let's just subtract this because they are like terms. So here we'll be having minus a minus 2. Okay, so minus a minus 2 is still the same thing as say minus outside then bracket open a then plus 2 in bracket. Okay, so now since we are looking for e, we just divide both sides by a plus 2. So let's continue from this part. So e will now be equals to minus, which is this minus here, then in bracket a plus 2, then divided by the coefficient of e, which is a plus 2. Okay, all over a plus 2. So a plus 2 will cancel out a plus 2. So this cancel out this and we having 1. So that our e, the identity element, is equals to minus 1. Okay, so let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option C, minus 1. Question 19. 3 straight lines EF, GH, and LK intersect at 0 as shown above. If angle KOF is equals to 52 degrees and angle LOH is equals to 58 degrees, calculate the size of angle EOG. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So if you look at the angles that are given to us, they are actually lying on line KL or line LK, whichever way you want to start. Okay, it's lying on LK, so that means we can actually calculate for this part, okay, this single part, because this part you are seeing here is actually vertically opposite to the angle that we are asked to calculate. This angle here, let's call it X. Okay, let's call this angle X. It's actually facing, directly facing the angle that we are asked to calculate for, which is EOG. Okay, but remember that sum of angles on a straight line is equals to 180. So this is the straight line LK, and these are the angles that are lying, okay, that are on the straight line. Okay, so here we'll be having 85 plus 52 plus S is equals to 180. Okay, sum of angles on a straight line, that is the reason, sum of angles on a straight line. So let's add these two together. So if we add these two together, we'll be having 137 plus X is equals to 180 degrees. So S will be equals to 180 minus 137. Okay, so if we subtract here, we'll be having 3, then we'll be having 4. Okay, so we'll be having 43 degrees. Okay, so that means our S here is equals to 43 degrees. But this 43 degrees is facing, directly facing angle EOG. And remember that vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, so therefore angle EOG is equals to 43 degrees. And what is the reason? Vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, vertically opposite angles are equal. So that is the reason. Okay, so angle EOG is equals to 43 degrees. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 43 degrees. Question 20. The sum of the interior angle of a regular polygon is 1800 degrees. Calculate the size of one exterior angle of the polygon. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. Now, to calculate or to find the sum of the interior angles of a regular polygon, we make use of the formula n minus 2 in bracket times 180. Okay, but in this case we are told that the sum of the interior angles is equals to 1800. So the formula here will be equals to 1800. 180 here will be equals to 1, and 180 here will be equals to 10. So that will be having n minus 2 is equals to 10. Okay, so since we are looking for the number of sides, we can just make the number of sides the subject of formula by moving minus 2 to the other side of the equation, so that n is equals to 10 plus 2, and that will be equals to 12. Okay, so the number of sides of the polygon is 12. Okay, remember that we are asked to calculate for one of the exterior angles of the polygon. Okay, so in this case, remember that for a polygon, okay, let's say we have Let's say we have a quadrilateral. Of course, a quadrilateral is a polygon, right? So the angles that are inside is what we refer to as the interior angle. But there's also angles outside. So those angles outside are what is referred to as exterior angle. Now, since we already know the number of sides of the polygon, okay, and remember that the sum of exterior angles of a polygon is equals to 360. Then, since we know the side, we can actually calculate for, since we know the number of sides, we can actually calculate for the size of an exterior angle. Okay, so if the sum of exterior angles of a regular polygon equals to 360, okay, and we want to calculate for the size of one of the exterior angles, it's just for us to divide it by the number of sides. So for this polygon, we already know the number of sides to be equals to 12. So for us to get the size of one of the exterior angles, this 360, okay, we divide it by 12. Now remember that this 360 represents the sum of the exterior angles, not interior angles. So one of the angles, okay, let's just call it this, will be equals to 360 divided by the number of sides, okay, and this will be equals to 30 degrees, okay. So the size of one of the exterior angles is equals to 30 degrees. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer, and that is option A, 30 degrees. Do you have any questions to ask? If yes, please feel free to ask your question by clicking on the link in the description below, and that will take you to my school website. There you can ask all your questions, and our team of solution providers will provide answers to all your questions within a short period of time. Moving on to question 21. In the diagram above, O is the center of the circle, angle UOT is equals to 70 degrees, and angle ROST is equals to 100 degrees. Calculate angle ROUO. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So we are asked to calculate angle ROUO. Okay, so but before we can do that, we first of all have to calculate for these two angles. So if you look at these two lines, actually they are equal. They are the radius, okay, they are the radius of this circle. They are radii of this circle, okay, because this is the center of the circle, and you're having a line from here to the circumference of the circle, and from the mid again to this side to the circumference of the circle. Okay, so that means what we actually have here, which is angle or triangle OUT, is an isosceles triangle. So we can actually calculate for the angles that are here. Okay, so remember that the base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal. So let's just call them X and X, right? Remember that the sum of angles in a triangle, irrespective of the type of triangle, is equals to 180 degrees. So here we'll be having X plus 70 is equals to 180 degrees, raising sum of angles in a triangle. And where is the triangle? The triangle is OUT. Okay, so S plus S will give us 2X plus 70 is equals to 180. So we collect like terms. 2S will be equals to 180 minus 70, and this equals to 110. Okay, so since we are looking for X, not 2S, we divide both sides by 2, so that S is equals to 110 divided by 2, which will equals to 55 degrees. So this particular point here is 55, angle here is 55 degrees, and this one here is 55 degrees. But we are not done, because we are looking for what should be here. Okay, so what should be here, because we are looking for angle ROUO. Okay, in order for us to calculate for angle ROUO, remember that angle ROUT, okay, and angle ROST are complementary. Remember that these are opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral. And remember that opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral are 180, are supplementary, meaning they are equal to 180. So if we add what we have here plus what we have here, should be equals to 180. Okay, so let's call it Y now. Let us not call it Z, because we are looking for this small place. So we'll call it Y plus 55, okay, plus 100, and this will be equals to 180. Okay, so if we add these two together, we're having Y plus 155, which is equals to 180. right? So y will be equals to 180 minus 155, okay? So y will be equals to, in this case, will be equals to 25 degrees, okay? So the value of angle ROUO is actually equals to 25 degrees, which is ROUO, which is this small part, okay? Is equals to 25 degrees. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 25 degrees. Do you have better steps or solution to any of these problems or questions? If yes, kindly go to the comment section below to comment the question number and the solution you wish to share. Question 22. A sector of a circle has an area of 55 centimeters square. If the radius of the circle is 10 centimeters, calculate the angle of the sector. Then we are asked to take pi to be equals to 22/7. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So this is a circle, and your sector is just like a little slice, okay, from inside. Okay, so this has an angle. So for us to calculate for the area of this sector, the formula for calculating the area of this sector is just this small angle, a fraction of that angle, which is θ/360. Then that will be times the area of a circle, which is pi r squared. So this is the formula for calculating for the area of a sector. But in this question, the area of the sector has been given to us that we should calculate for this angle. So we'll be having 55 to be equals to θ/360, then times 22/7, then times 10 times 10, because the value of radius is equals to 10 centimeters. So we can just collect like terms since we are calculating for theta. So if we do that, we'll be having 5, that is 55, times 360 times 7 is equals to theta times 22 times 100, okay? So since we are looking for theta, let's just make it the subject of formula, so that theta is equals to 555 times 360 times 7 divided by 222 times 100, okay? So let's divide. So 11 here will give us 2, 11 here will give us 5, okay? So 0 here we cancel out 0 here, okay? 2 here will give us 1, 2 here will give us 18, then 5 here will give us 2, 5 here is 1, 2 here is 1, and 2 here is 9. So we now have 9 times 7 left, okay? So theta is now equals to 9 times 7, and 9 times 7 is equals to 63, okay? So therefore, we can say the value of theta is equals to 63 degrees. So let's return back to the screen to pick the correct answer to this question, and that is option B, 63 degrees. Question 23. Find the curved surface area of a cone with circular base diameter 10 centimeters and height 12 centimeters. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So let's just make a sketch of the cone, okay? So this is the cone, and we are told that the height is 12 centimeters, and we are told that the radius, the diameter, the base diameter, that is the whole of here, is 10 centimeters. So half of it is going to be 5 centimeters. So here will be 5 centimeters, and here will be 5 centimeters. But we are asked to calculate for the curved surface area. So the formula for calculating the curved surface area of a cone is given as pi r L. So that means we need the slant height, okay, in order to be able to calculate for the curved surface area of this cone. But if you check very well in the values that are given to us, the slant height is not given to us, which is actually this part. So, but we can calculate for it by simply cutting out this part of the cone, okay? We can cut out this part of the cone. So if we cut it out, we'll be having a right angle triangle like this. Okay, so here represent the height, which is 12, and here represent the base radius, because this radius, the diameter is given to us to be 10, we shared it into 2. So here will be 5 centimeters, and here represents the slight height. So by simply applying Pythagoras theorem, we can get the value of L. And remember that according to Pythagoras theorem, the square of the hypotenuse, which is L in this case, is equals to the square of the adjacent or opposite, then plus the square of, the square of the adjacent plus the square of the opposite. So in this case, which will be 12 and 25. So take note, for the adjacent or opposite, since no angle is given to us, so any place here can serve as the adjacent or the opposite, and your answer will still be correct. Okay, so L square will be equals to 144 plus 25. Okay, so L square is equals to 144 plus 25. I think that will be 169. So since we are looking for L, we just take the square root of both sides. So that L is equals to the square root of 169, which is equals to 13. Okay, so the slight height is equals to 13 centimeters. So now that I've gotten 13 centimeters, we can actually calculate for the curved surface area of the cone. Okay, so pi, we are not asked to take pi for any value. From the option, you can see that the curved surface area is calculated in terms of pi. Okay, so we just fix in our value. So pi, then times the radius is 5 and not 10. 10 is the diameter, and half of 10 gives us the radius, which is 5, then times 13. Okay, so here we'll be having 5 times 13 times pi. So 5 times 13 is going to give us 65. Okay, then pi, then centimeter squared, since we are talking about area. Okay, so the curved surface area of the cone is equals to 65 pi centimeter square. So let's move over to the screen to pick the correct answer, and that is option B, 65 pi centimeter square. Question 24. Two lines PQ and ST intersect at 75 degrees. The locus of points equidistant from PQ and ST lies on, so A, we have perpendicular bisector of PQ, B, perpendicular bisector of ST, C, bisector of the angles between line PQ and ST, D, bisector of the angles between lines PT and QX. Okay, so the answer to this question is option C, bisector of the angles between line PQ and ST. Okay, so these are simply theorems. Okay, so when two lines, forms an angle between them, of course, when two lines means they form an angle. Okay, so in this case, they form an angle of 75 degrees. So if you are looking for points that are equidistant from the two lines, the point will be the line that actually shares the angle into two equal parts. Okay, so every point here from this side and this side, they are equal from this line that actually shares the angle that these two lines form. Line shared into two equal halves. Okay, so that makes option C the correct answer to this question. So the locus of point equidistant from P and ST lies on the bisector of the angles, formed between lines PQ and ST. So that makes option C the correct answer to this question. Question 25. Find the equation of the perpendicular at the point 4 and 3 to the line y plus 2x is equals to 5. So let's move over to the board to provide answer to this question. So the first thing to do here is to put this line in the gradient intercept form. Y is equals to ms plus 5. So we're going to put this line in this form. So here we'll be having y, then we'll be having 2 minus 2x, then plus 5. So it's now in this form. So our gradient m1 in this case is equals to minus 2. But remember the condition for perpendicularity is m1, m2 is equals to minus 1. Since we are looking for m2 and we already know m1 to be equals to minus 2, so here we'll be having minus 2, m2 is equals to minus 1. So we divide both sides by minus 2, so that m2 is equals to minus 1 divided by minus 2. So minus will cancel minus, so that m2 is equals to 1 over 2. Okay, so now we want to generate the line. Okay, so we use y minus y1 is equals to m2 brackets x minus x2. Okay, so here our x1, sorry, this is x1 not x2. So here our x1 is 4 while our y1 is 3. So we just substitute. So here we'll be having y minus 3 is equals to 1 over 2 brackets x minus 4. Okay, so we just cross multiply because of these two. So if we cross multiply, we're having 2y minus 6 is equals to x, 1 times x is x, then minus 4. So we collect like terms. So we just move this x to this side and move this minus 6 to this other side. So 2y, of course, this x here is positive. So once it crosses the equal to sign, it's going to change to minus. Minus s is equals to, now this our 6 is negative here. Once it crosses the equals to sign, it will change to plus. So we're having minus 4 plus 6. Okay, so that at the end of the day, we'll have 2y minus s to be equals to 2. Okay, so this is the line. Okay, this is the equation of the perpendicular at the point 4 and 3 to the line y plus 2s, which is 2y minus s is equals to 2. So let's return back to the screen to put the correct answer to this question, and that is option D, 2y minus s is equals to 3. I believe you enjoyed this video content. If yes, please do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the notification bell to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.